It is the final day of battle, the 18th day of the great war of Kurukshetra. The earth is soaked in blood and the cries of the fallen still echo across the battlefield. With Karna slain, the Kaurava forces stand on the precipice of annihilation. Their leader Duryodhana reels from the loss, yet his will remains unbroken. His commanders have fallen, his warriors scattered, yet in his heart he holds on to one last hope, the path of a warrior, the path of battle. He knows that death is the only road left for him, and he is prepared to embrace it. As the day 17 ends, night falls. Kripa, the venerable preceptor and last of the Kaurava commanders, approaches Duryodhana with a final plea for peace. He stands before the prince, his aged face weary, his voice heavy with the wisdom of experience. Kripa says, Duryodhana, the war is lost. Bhishma, Drona, Karna, each pillar of our strength has fallen. The two Krishnas, Arjuna and Vasudeva, stand unchallenged. Lay down your arms, surrender and save what remains. Do not let our people perish for the sake of pride. Duryodhana answers, surrender, never. Draupadi's humiliation, Abhimanyu's slaughter, can these wounds be forgotten? The world will remember the name of Duryodhana, not as a coward, but as a warrior who fought till his last breath. Death in battle is the only path for a Kshatriya. Resolute in his defiance, Duryodhana turns to the only warrior left with the might to command, King Shalya of Madra. Ashwathama, son of Drona, suggests him as the new commander. Shalya, a warrior of immense strength and skill, accepts the mantle with pride, knowing this is his final stand. Shalya declares, Duryodhana know this. Arjuna and Krishna may be formidable, but they are no match for my strength. Today I shall cow through the Pandavas and restore your dominion. No one will stand before my chariot and live to tell the tale. With Shalya at the helm, the Kaurava forces awaken with renewed determination. The sun rises over the battlefield, casting long shadows over the war-ravaged land. The smell of blood and steel lingers in the air as warriors mount their chariots, their eyes filled with unshaken resolve. The Pandavas stand ready, answering the Kaurava challenge. The battle is fierce. Nakula, driven by vengeance, slays the sons of Karna, Satyasena and Sushena. Duryodhana, in a final display of defiance, cuts down the brave Chekitana. Ashwathama, the last vestige of Drona's legacy, claims the life of Suratha of Panchala. The earth quakes beneath the force of these final clashes. Elsewhere, Satyaki cows his way through the Kaurava ranks, his arrows finding their mark with unerring precision. He duels fiercely with Kripa, their battle a dazzling display of skill and endurance. The warrior of the Vrishni clan, trained by Krishna himself, overwhelms Kripa with a relentless storm of arrows, forcing him to retreat. Ashwathama, filled with the rage of vengeance, challenges Drishtadyumna, the slayer of his father Drona. Their clash is fierce and unyielding, a storm of flashing blades and ringing steel. Ashwathama fights like a man possessed, his every strike fueled by grief and fury. Drishtadyumna, the valiant, struggles against the sheer ferocity of his opponent, but his allies rally to his aid. Meanwhile, Arjuna, the peerless warrior, cuts down legions of Kaurava soldiers with the might of Gandiva. His chariot moves like the wind, Krishna guiding him with divine precision. Arjuna faces Kritavarma in a duel of great intensity. The Yadava prince fights bravely, but Arjuna, blessed by celestial weapons, dominates the battlefield. A volley of arrows disarm Kritavarma, forcing him to withdraw. Nakula and Sahadeva, the sons of Madri, display their unmatched swordsmanship. Nakula slays Chitrasena with a single strike, his blade swift as lightning. Sahadeva faces Shakuni, the mastermind of the dice game that doomed the Pandavas to exile. In an act of poetic justice, Sahadeva slays Shakuni, bringing an end to his deceitful reign. But the battle's true spectacle unfolds as Yudhishthira, the ever-righteous king, steps forward to challenge Shalya. The Madra king, a force of destruction, lays waste to the Pandava forces. His arrows a storm of death. The very air vibrates with the force of his bowstring, and the Pandava warriors are pushed back under his relentless assault. Yet Yudhishthira stands unyielding, flanked by his brothers Bhima, Nakula, Sahadeva and the mighty Satyaki. Bhima meets Shalya in brutal combat. their clubs clashing like thunder in the heavens. Each blow is like the crash of a tempest, sending tremors through the battlefield. But fate has spoken. Yudhishthira, in an act of rare aggression, strikes the fatal blow. His arrow finds its mark, and Shalya falls, his mighty form crashing to the ground. With Shalya's death, the last great commander of the Kauravas is no more. The army crumbles, leaderless, broken, and lost. The once mighty Kaurava war machine is reduced to nothing but scattered remnants. And so, destiny unfolds as foretold. Kripa's warnings go unheeded, and Duryodhana's stubborn pride seals the fate of his lineage. The weight of past sins, the humiliation of Draupadi, the deceit in the dice game, the killing of Abhimanyu has brought the Kauravas to their ruin. Shalya, a warrior torn between duty and kinship, meets his end at the hands of his own nephew Yudhishthira. It is a lesson in Dharma, where personal attachments fade before the call of duty. The battlefield is a cruel arbiter, sparing none, honoring none. As the dust settles, the Kauravas stand at the edge of oblivion. Their warriors lie slain, their chariots shattered. The echoes of the conch shells ring through the silence, signaling the final reckoning. And now only one man remains, the last hope of the Kauravas, the architect of war itself, Duryodhana. Duryodhana must now face his fate. The final battle is upon him. The last warrior of the Kauravas will soon meet his destiny. Duryodhana, the last surviving son of Dhritarashtra, had hidden himself in a deep lake, seeking refuge from the destruction of his armies. His body, weary from war, found solace in the cool waters, but his mind burned with thoughts of vengeance and honor. The Pandavas, led by Yudhishthira, discovered his hiding place. They called him out, challenging him to a final confrontation. Though wounded, Duryodhana emerged, choosing to fight. He would face Bhima in single combat, one last stand to decide the fate of Kuru dynasty. This was not just a battle of strength, but a culmination of years of enmity and unfulfilled vengeance. Samanta Panchaka, the battlefield where countless warriors had fallen, would now witness the final battle. Bhima and Duryodhana, both trained in the art of mace combat, stood ready. The winds howled, the sky darkened, omens filled the air, jackals cried, and the earth trembled. The gods themselves seemed to watch. The duel of maces would determine the future of the war. Every strike, every motion carried the weight of their past. Each warrior sought to etch his name into history, to stand as the final victor in a war that had consumed entire generations. Bhima fought with raw power. His strikes were fierce, seeking to crush his enemy. Duryodhana, however, moved with agility, evading each blow, striking back with precision. His training and technique made him a formidable opponent. For a long time, the duel remained even. Blood stained the ground, but neither warrior relented. The battle grew fiercer, the warriors circling one another like tigers. Each attack was countered, each maneuver met with equal skill. They were not merely opponents, they were reflections of each other, two warriors molded by the same master, destined for this fateful confrontation. Krishna, observing the battle, saw that Duryodhana could not be defeated through fair combat. He turned to Arjuna. A single gesture, a slap on the thigh, was enough. Bhima remembered his vow. He had sworn to break Duryodhana's thighs. As his enemy leaped into the air for an attack, Bhima struck. The mace hit Duryodhana's thighs with a crack. The prince of the Kurus fell. The war had ended. But with that final blow, something shifted in the air. Silence followed. The Pandavas had won, but victory carried a bitter taste. The blow had not just broken Duryodhana's body, it had shattered the illusion of honor in war. Duryodhana lay on the ground, his body shattered, but his spirit unbroken. Bhima, overcome with rage, kicked his fallen enemy's head. The Pandavas rejoiced, but Krishna cautioned them. Mocking a fallen enemy was against the path of Dharma. As the dust settled, Baladeva arrived, furious at the dishonorable strike. He raised his plow, ready to punish Bhima. Only Krishna's words calmed him. He reminded all that destiny had already sealed Duryodhana's fate. Yet the unease lingered. Had justice truly been served, or had they merely fulfilled an inevitable course set by fate? Laying on the battlefield, Duryodhana did not plead. He did not accept defeat. He spoke with pride, reminding all that he had lived as a king and had fought with honor. He had ruled vast lands, led great armies, and given generously. He would ascend to a warrior's heaven, while the Pandavas would live burdened with the consequences of their actions. Celestial beings showered flowers upon him, acknowledging his valor. His final words were not of regret but of defiance. He accused the Pandavas of deceit and dishonor. I am the true victor, he declared, for I die with my honor intact. His words echoed in the silence, a final curse upon those who had wronged him. As night fell, Ashwathama, Kripa, and Kritavarma arrived. They saw their prince lying broken, his body covered in dust and blood. Ashwathama's heart filled with grief and fury. He swore an oath, a final act of vengeance. He would destroy the Pandavas and the Panchalas. The war was not over yet. A darker chapter was about to begin. The night would soon witness an act of terror beyond war, a massacre that would stain history. The cycle of violence had not ended, it had merely changed hands. Knowing the power of Gandhari's sorrow, Krishna acted swiftly. He travelled to Hastinapura to console Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. He spoke of destiny, reminding them that the war had unfolded as it was meant to. But grief had changed Gandhari. The flames of her sorrow and rage could still consume the victor. The end of one battle had sown the seeds of another tragedy. Gandhari's anguish turned to fury. This war has taken everything from me, she lamented. Her blindfolded eyes burned with an unseen fire. She would soon unleash a force that even Krishna could not entirely prevent. The Gada Yuddha Parva is one of the most complex moments in the Mahabharata. Bhima's victory was not without dishonor. Duryodhana's fall did not bring true peace. The war was over, yet the cycle of vengeance continued. The Mahabharata is not a simple tale of good and evil. It is a saga of choices, destiny, and the eternal struggle between righteousness and ambition. Even in victory, there are no true winners. The echoes of battle still lingered in the air, and the cost of war would soon reveal itself in ways none could foresee. Day 18, the night of vengeance. Darkness spread over the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The war had ended, but its echoes remained. Fire smoldered, casting long shadows over fallen warriors. Amid this stillness, three figures moved with silent purpose: Ashwathama, Kripa, and Kritavarma. They were the last remnants of Duryodhana's once mighty force, carrying within them grief, rage, and unquenchable thirst for retribution. Ashwathama stood beneath an ancient banyan tree, his breath heavy with anger. The deaths of his comrades tormented him. Then, amidst the silence, a sound, wings flapping. His sharp gaze followed an owl, its talons gripping a sleeping crow. With ruthless precision, it struck. One by one, the defenseless crows fell. Ashwathama clenched his fist. This is how it must be done, he murmured. The Pandavas and the Panchalas would meet the same fate. He turned to Kripa and Kritavarma. The Pandavas have won through deceit. They killed my father without honor. Tonight I will do the same to them. Kripa frowned. This is not dharma. To kill warriors in their sleep is against the laws of war. Did the Pandavas follow dharma? Ashwathama's voice was bitter. They killed my father as he prayed. They slew Karna when he was defenseless. They broke Duryodhana's thighs. This is not revenge, it is justice. Kripa sighed, but said no more. The decision had been made. As Ashwathama neared the enemy camp, a formidable presence blocked his path. A gigantic being, as resplendent as 1,000 suns, stood guarding the entrance. It had countless arms wielding celestial weapons, its eyes blazing like fire. Ashwathama's breath caught. He had never faced such a force. Determined, he unleashed a volley of arrows, but they vanished into the being's radiance. He hurled a flaming spear, but it disintegrated before making contact. Even his sword, imbued with mystical energy, failed against this divine protector. Exhausted, Ashwathama realized the futility of his actions. For a brief moment, doubt clouded his mind. Was he committing an unworthy act? Then his rage surged anew. The Pandavas had abandoned dharma when they slew his father. There was no room for his hesitation. He turned away from the guardian and fell to his knees. O Mahadeva, Lord of destruction, accept me as your vessel. The sky darkened. A golden altar appeared before him, its flames rising into the heavens. Terrifying beings with monstrous faces emerged. Surrounding him, Shiva's presence descended upon the battlefield. The god acknowledged Krishna's superior devotion. but in his unfathomable will, chose Ashwatthama as the instrument of his wrath. A surge of unimaginable power coursed through Ashwatthama's veins. His mortal flesh became an extension of Shiva's divine fury. He rose, transformed, not merely a warrior but destruction itself. Ashwatthama entered the camp. The guards were asleep, their weapons cast aside. He moved like a shadow, his sword gleaming in the moonlight. First, he reached the tent of Drishtadyumna, the killer of his father. With one powerful kick, he woke him. Drishtadyumna gasped, his eyes wide with fear. Ashwatthama seized him by the hair and slammed him to the ground. Coward, he spat. You killed my father when he was unarmed. You do not deserve an honorable death. Drishtadyumna struggled, but Ashwatthama's grip was unyielding. He pressed down on his throat, crushing it. The Panchala prince's body convulsed, then fell still. The screams woke Draupadi's son, Prativindya, Shrutasoma, Shatanika, Shrutakarma, and Shrutakirti. They reached for their weapons, but Ashwatthama was faster. He cut them down one by one. Prativindya fell first, a deep gash across his abdomen. Shrutasoma raised his sword, but Ashwatthama severed his arm before striking him down. Shatanika hurled a chariot wheel, but Ashwatthama deflected it and slashed his throat. Shrutakarma and Shrutakirti tried to flee, but they did not get far. Within moments, all of Draupadi's sons lay dead. Ashwatthama was relentless. He slaughtered the sleeping soldiers. Their cries lost in the night. Blood pooled on the ground. The air was thick with the scent of death. Fires rose, consuming the camp. Elephants trumpeted in fear. Horses neighed, and men stumbled in confusion. Kripa and Kritavarma stood at the camp's exits, cutting down those who tried to escape. Ashwatthama moved through the flames, his sword striking down every warrior in sight. Those who woke found themselves trapped in a nightmare. There was no mercy. Shikhandi, the slayer of Bhishma, woke to the commotion. Seeing Ashwatthama's rampage, he grabbed his bow and unleashed a rain of arrows. One struck Ashwatthama between the eyebrows, staggering him for a brief moment. But rage overtook pain. With terrifying speed, Ashwatthama rushed forward, his sword flashing. In one swift stroke, he sliced Shikhandi into two. The warrior who had once been the instrument of Bhishma's fall now met a fate just as brutal. The Prabhadrakas, the elite Panchala warriors, awoke to the horror. They rallied together, grabbing weapons to defend their camp. But Ashwatthama was unstoppable. He moved like a whirlwind, cutting them down one after another. Their resistance was brief. The divine energy surging within him made him an instrument of destruction. The Prabhadrakas fell in heaps, their lifeblood mixing with the ashes of the burning camp. By dawn, the Pandava camp was silent. Bodies lay strewn across the ground lifeless. Ashwatthama stood amidst the carnage, his body drenched in blood. He had avenged his father, but as he looked upon the destruction, a strange emptiness settled over him. He turned to his companions. We must go to Duryodhana. He must hear of this victory. They rode through the battlefield where the last Kaurava king lay dying. Duryodhana, his body broken, managed a faint smile. Ashwatthama glanced at him and spoke again. O Duryodhana, if you are still alive, listen to this welcome news. There are 7 Pandavas left and 3 of us, Kritavarma, Kripa and myself. The 5 brothers Vasudeva and Satyaki survived, but all the sons of Draupadi have been slain, and so have Drishtadyumna's sons. The Panchalas and the remaining Matsyas have also been annihilated. Behold the revenge that has followed their deed. While they slept in their camp, men and mounts alike were slaughtered. Drishtadyumna, the one with the wicked deeds, was killed like an animal. Hearing these words, Duryodhana's mind found composure. He breathed deeply and then spoke. Neither I, nor Gangaya, nor Karna, nor your father could achieve this. You have done what no other could, together with Kripa and Kritavarma. You have slain the inferior commander along with Shikhandi. Because of this, I honor you as an equal of Meghavan. O fortunate one, may you be prosperous. We will meet again in the heaven. With those words, the great-minded Kuru king fell silent. His sorrow lifted. He gave up his life. They embraced him and were embraced in return, casting their final glances at him. They then ascended their chariots, riding away from the battlefield. Thus ended the Sauptika Parva, a night of horror, a night of reckoning. Ashwatthama had achieved vengeance, but at a terrible cost. The echoes of his deeds would never fade. The war had ended, but the consequences had only begun. Day 19, Aishika Parva. The war had ended, but the night still carried its echoes. The air was heavy with smoke and sorrow. The Pandavas believed their suffering had reached its peak, yet fate had not finished its work. As silence blanketed the battlefield, a new horror unfolded in the shadows. The night had not brought peace, it had brought treachery. This is the Aishika Parva, the story of Ashwathama's vengeance, the destruction it unleashed, and the divine forces that intervened to balance the scales of destiny. At dawn, a lone survivor staggered into the Pandava camp. His body trembled, his voice cracked as he spoke. His clothes were torn, and his eyes, filled with unspeakable horror, seemed to reflect the blood soaked images his mind refused to forget. O king, the warriors of your house were asleep, assured of safety. In that stillness, Ashwatthama, Kripa, and Kritavarma entered like silent storms. They did not fight, they slaughtered. None survived but me. They did not distinguish between the innocent and the guilty. Sons, fathers, warriors, and servants. Everyone was felled in an instant. Yudhishthira listened, his face drained of color, his hand shook as he grasped his sword, then let it fall. He collapsed, struck by grief deeper than any wound in battle. Silence reigned, thick and suffocating. The weight of his sorrow crushed his spirit. Yudhishthira spoke. We fought for victory, but what remains? Is this the reward of war? Is this the triumph we sought? He ordered Nakula to bring Draupadi. She must see the destruction, for her sorrow now carried the weight of justice. She alone could command a vengeance that the Pandavas would not refuse. Draupadi arrived, her steps slow, her breath shallow. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears as she took in the lifeless bodies of her sons. She fell to her knees, trembling. The enormity of her loss crushed her soul. O warriors, my sons, my brothers, all have been taken. Their lives were stolen in the dark, like cowards stealing from the helpless. Ashwathama lives. That cannot stand. If you do not act, I will renounce my life. Bhima did not hesitate. He seized his bow and climbed onto his chariot. Nakula took the reins, and together they left in pursuit. The fire of vengeance burned in Bhima's eyes, and the wind seemed to roar in the agreement. The battle was not over. Far away, Krishna turned to Yudhishthira. His voice was calm but firm, carrying the weight of divine foresight. Krishna says, Bhima runs towards death. Ashwathama is not just a warrior. He wields the Brahmashira, a weapon capable of consuming the world. His fury is reckless, his heart poisoned with rage. Realizing the danger, Krishna, Arjuna and Yudhishthira followed. Time was against them. The sky darkened as they sped forth, as if nature itself understood the weight of the moment. By the Bhagirathi river, Bhima found Ashwathama. The son of Drona did not draw his sword. Instead, he grasped a reed of grass, whispered an incantation, and released it. The weapon carried destruction itself. The wind screamed, the earth cracked, and the sky blazed red. Krishna turned to Arjuna. Krishna, only one weapon can counter this. Invoke the same, but do not let it destroy. Arjuna, calm in the storm, obeyed. He released his own Brahmashira. The sky roared as the two forces met. The earth trembled, rivers turned back, and the air became fire. The gods in the heavens watched in the dread as the balance of the world tittered on the edge of annihilation. Narada and Vyasa appeared, their voices breaking through the chaos. Vyasa says, these weapons must be withdrawn. If they remain, the world will suffer. Arjuna, disciplined and pure, withdrew his weapon. Ashwathama, reckless and unrestrained, could not. Instead, he turned its power upon the unborn children of the Pandavas, sending the deadly force toward Uttara's womb. The missile struck Uttara's womb. Her child, Parikshit, was lifeless before he had lived. The Pandavas stood in silent horror, their souls shaken beyond repair. Krishna stepped forward, his voice clear and unyielding. Krishna says, Parikshit will not perish. By my will he shall live. With a single touch, the unborn prince breathed again. His fate was restored. The gods themselves seemed to sigh in relief. Krishna turned to Ashwathama. Krishna says to Ashwathama, for this crime you will wander the earth for 3,000 years. You will know no rest, no peace. Your body will decay, but death will not take you. Ashwatthama, stripped of his gem and broken in spirit, left to roam the earth, cursed for eternity. His doom was sealed, his arrogance repaid with endless suffering. Yudhishthira turned to Krishna. How could Ashwatthama gain such power? Krishna replies, because Mahadeva allowed it. Krishna spoke of Shiva's will, how he had once shattered the sacrifices of the gods to remind them that power is not theirs to keep. Ashwatthama's strength was not his own. It was granted and then taken away, for such is the way of the world. Power that does not respect dharma is always doomed to fail. Thus ended the Aishika Parva, a tale of vengeance and consequence, of power and restraint. Victory is never absolute. Fate moves as it wills, and no mortal hand can hold it back. The Pandavas had won a war, but in its shadow they learned the cost of power, the weight of justice, and the price of defying destiny. As they turned homeward, they carried not only the burden of the loss, but the wisdom of the gods. The echoes of war faded, but its lessons endured. The road ahead was uncertain, but they walked it with knowledge that righteousness, though often burdened by suffering, would always find its way.